right, everyone from the waiting room is in, so whenever you're ready, Beatrice.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, thank you. So good to see you all. Welcome to UTC 5. And today we're going to practice the use of one of the screening tools, Assist. And thank you that you have come in on time. I wish to remind us that for today's class, we hope you have got the participant manual. We also hope you have your Assist, if possible, a hard copy to make it easier for you. And the rest is basically the slides which we shall be sharing. I'm glad to announce that our client is with us. Shall we give a clap to our client for keeping time? Thank you, our client, George. Thank you. So we are happy that he has kept time. He's actually arrived before some of the counselors, so he's very motivated. Thank you. So I'm going to go straight to the slides. And I'd like to remind you that in the last class, Moses introduced the Assist screening tool. We did say that there are many screening tools, and we mentioned the audit. Of course, we also have the cage that many of you use, but you notice that the cage is used largely for alcohol. And then we have got, the audit, which again, a lot of it has to do with alcohol. But the good thing with Assist is that it's a tool that tests for alcohol, smoking, and other substances involvement. And therefore, it's a broader tool. It can help you detect pretty early when a client has a problem and be able to make the necessary intervention, whether it's going to be a brief intervention or you're going to refer the client for further assessment and intervention. And therefore, I want to begin by reminding you some things that, Moses took us through just to bring you on board around this activity of the day. Moses introduced us to the Assist, and he actually told us that when you administer the Assist, there are cards that you will give the client. The response cards, or so they are called, help the client or guide the client to respond to the questions or to the items you're going to be asking them. And so before you start the test, it's a good idea to introduce these cards to the client so that they understand them. So that when it's time to present the card to them, it's not a surprise. So we are going to do just that. I'm going to introduce you to these cards. There are 5 of them, the response cards. I remember there is a participant who asked a question that if you're in resource-constrained countries and you may not afford to have these cards for every client, what do you do? And Moses gave tips on what you can do, that you can even make these response cards for yourself. And remember, these cards are not, the client doesn't write on these response cards. These ones, you give them and they give you back. So you can use them for different clients. It is the score sheet that is unique to every client. So the first response card is this one. It gives the client a list of substances. This is what we are going to use for the first question. Let us remember that in this list of substances are very generic names. It is possible that in your different countries, like Moses said, we have other names or products that have got this main, or substances that have this main product, but they go by different names. So when you ask your client, remember to accommodate those other drugs that are being used in your specific areas that may not necessarily fit under the names that we have given. So in the response card 1, you give the client, you tell them that this is a list of substances that you're going to be asking them about, and you go through each of them to ensure the client understands these substances, so that by the time you're asking them about them, in the follow-up questions, they are in the picture. So you can see the first one is tobacco and gives you all the different examples or types. We have opioids and the different types. We have cannabis and the different types, and so on and so forth. The client themselves might tell you, in my country, we have got cannabis, but we have a different name. So you tell them that is acceptable. They might tell you that they have alcoholic beverages, but they go by a different name. Accept that, so that you put them in the context of what you're going to be asking about. So that is response card 1, and that one is very useful from the beginning, and the client will stay with that all the time. Now, the next response card is response card number 2. Response card number 2, like Moses told us last time, will be used for questions 2, 3, 4, and 5. Why do we give it? we want to help the client conceptualize what we mean when we ask them about, how often they use substances, the pattern of use. So for example, we tell them that if it is never, if you have not used in the last 3 months, then it is never. By the way, please remember Moses introduced us and told us, assist focuses on the last 3 months. That's why you'll be noting everything is around 3 months. So if the client has not used a substance in the last 3 months, you tell them that their answer will be never. If they have used 1 or 2 times in the last 3 months, their answer will be once or twice. If they have used 1 to 3 times in 1 month, the answer will be monthly. If they have used 1 to 4 times per week, or they use 1 to 4 times per week, the answer will be weekly. And if they use 5 to 7 times per week, then the answer will be daily or almost daily. Now, if the client is not able to read and write, probably their literacy level is wanting, you can use, this is demonstrated here. These are glasses with some quantities. So the first glass is empty to mean never. The second one has a little to indicate once or twice. The third one has a little more to indicate monthly. The fourth one has even a little more to indicate weekly. And finally, the final one is full to indicate daily. So if the client isn't literate, you can actually arrange glasses, put in some fluid, like you can put some juice in there or whatever it is you choose, and the client is able to see. So if it is never, they pick the one that's empty. If it's daily, they pick the one that's full. So these are some of the ways you can modify to be able to help your client with this. Now the next response card, number 3, is this is not a response card. This is actually a calendar. The calendar is very important. And this is because sometimes when you ask the client, in the last 3 months, what substances have you used? They may not remember when the last month started or the third month you're talking about. So it's nice to ask them. Today is the 13th of June. So we are going to be thinking about the last 3 months. So if you look at this calendar, when is 3 months from now or backwards, from this date? And they'll be able to say 1 month is May 13, another month is April 13, and another month is March 13. So they will now know the period you're going to be thinking about is between 13th of March and 13th of June. So that gives them a frame of mind to be able to think about their use of the substances. So this helps the client. And please let the client keep this calendar until the end of the screening. So the other one is response card 3. This one is used for question number 4. Question number 4, like you will notice, is asking about the problems the client has faced related to the use of the substance. And the problems can be many. Remember, we talk about health, we talk about social, we talk about economic, we talk about legal and others. So when you give response card 3 for question 4, the client begins to see some of the problems that they may have experienced. If you just ask them, have you ever suffered any problem? They may tell you no. But when you show them this response card and they look at this list, they might discover, yes, there's a time I used a substance and I was confused. In fact, it's my roommate who helped me out. Or I have been having problems of constipation. And so this card helps the client to understand what are the problems you're going to be asking about. So it has the health problems there, then it has the social problems, it has the legal problems, it has the financial problem. So when you walk them through that card, they now will remember when you ask them, have you ever had a problem? They can reflect on what that card is saying. Then we have got response card number 4. This one is used for question number 5. Now in question number 5, we are asking the client whether they have at any one point, because of using the substance, failed to perform normal activities of daily living, or what we call their responsibilities. Again, they may not remember. So when you take them through this card, you give them examples. That a good example of these normal activities includes failing to do household responsibilities, and you give them these examples, failing in your family responsibilities, community responsibilities, work-related responsibilities. So you walk them through that card and they get into the perspective. Now the next card, which is the last one, is card number 5, response card number 5. And this one is used to answer questions 6 all the way to 8. Basically, this is a card that helps them again, just like a response card number 2, which was helping them to know how to put in the time frame or to the frequency. So this is what this one is about, the pattern of use. So if it is, so there is a no, never, there is a yes, but not in the past 3 months, there is a yes in the past 3 months. So the client is supposed to pick any one of these 3 for question number 6, question number 7, and question number 8. And then the other important thing you will be seeing in these resource pages, which I'm not going to necessarily, we won't use for the client right now, it's information that can help you help the client. So for example, when you go to question number 8, it asks about the risk of injecting substances. So there's a lot of information here that is given in these resource pages around the risks of injecting substances and what you should do with your client in terms of that. So for example, you assess their risk based on the information that they give you around their patterns of injection. So that is what I wanted to share from the participant manual about the assist. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And now I'm going to go to the PowerPoint to take us where we left last time. So if you remember, just before we ended, Moses had taken us through much of that information I was talking about, and now we were to do the role play. So I'm going to introduce how we shall be administering the assist, and after that, we shall go to the actual administration of the assist. So I'll take you through the question. So in the first question, you're going to be asking the client, it's a question that says lifetime use. In your life, which of the following substances have you ever tried? And remember, Moses told us to remind the client, if it was for medical use, we don't consider that. So it is only for non-medical use. Now, the answer is either a no or a yes. And if you show the client the response card number 1, it actually gives the list of substances which the client will be responding to, and they will say yes or no to each. And you're being encouraged to ask for all the substances on that list. And at the end of it, you ask for any other that may not be on the list. Now, you should record any use, even if the client only tried once. This is important because sometimes clients may want to think, I just tried once when I was in high school and I never did it again. That's important. You're also encouraged, if the client says no to everything, probe a little further. Ask them, not even at a party, not even when all the students were trying substance use, not even in your university days. It's important to probe because sometimes the client may have forgotten. You can even ask, like in our culture, because alcohol is used a lot in parties, you can ask, not even in the family parties. You will prompt them to remember things they may have forgotten. So if their answers to all these substances are no, then you end the interview and you thank the client. What if you have some yeses? You proceed to question number 2. Question number 2 asks about the recent use. Recent use is the past 3 months. So you ask the client, during the past 3 months, how often have you used the substances you mentioned in, you remember in the question 1. So in question 1, maybe they mentioned that they've ever used alcohol, they've ever smoked tobacco. So those 2 substances. So now in question 2, you ask them, in the last 3 months, how often have you used alcohol? How often have you used tobacco? And you remind them that, if it is, they haven't used at all, it is never. If it is once or twice, you indicate. If it's a few times in the month, you indicate. If it's a couple of times in the week, a few times in the week, you say weekly, based on the response card number 2, which you gave them. And then after that, you proceed to question number 3. Question number 3 assesses something to do with urges to use. So the client may not have used, but they've got strong cravings, urges to use, which is something of importance to you. So you ask them, during the past 3 months, how often have you had a strong desire or urge to use? You see, they may have the urge but never used, but the urge is important to capture. So again, you score it much the same way as in question 2, like you did with the resource card number 2. Then you go to question number 4. This one you're asking about health, social, legal, or financial problems. Again, it is within the last 3 months. And you're asking them how often using, now you mentioned the substances, how often has your use of alcohol, your use of the second substance, which was tobacco, led to, you talk about the health, the social, the legal, the financial. Remind them to look at their resource card, which is helping to explain some of these problems. And these are also given some of the problems as we have seen earlier. Then you go to question number 5, which is failure to perform key responsibilities or expectations. And again, you show them the response card and they select. And for each of the substances, remember that they mentioned in question 1, you score. And then you go to question 6. Question 6 asks whether an external person has been concerned about your substance use. So ask the client, has a friend or a relative or anyone else ever expressed concern about your use of, you mentioned the substances. So for example, of alcohol or of tobacco. So you mentioned for each substance and you indicate the answer. And remember, this is where we are using the response card number 5, which has the 3 options of never and yes in the past 3 months and yes, but not in the past 3 months. Then question number 7 has to do with loss of control. You want to check whether the client has ever tried to cut down or control unsuccessfully. So it's being referred to as failed attempts to control. So you ask the client, have you ever tried and failed to control, cut down, or stop using? Remember, the first substance here was alcohol. The second substance was tobacco. Again, you score using your response card number 5, which has the 3 options. And finally, question number 8, we are asking about injecting substance use. And you ask the client, have you ever used any substance by injection? And you remind them it is for non-medical use only. And they will give the answer if it's never, if it's yes in the past 3 months, if it is yes, but not in the past 3 months. And of course, there is a score for each of those. And we are saying, if they say yes, for example, whether it is in the past 3 months or in the current time, query a little about the pattern, find out how often have they been injecting. If a client has been injecting daily or very, very often in a week, then you know the risk is very high. Where do they inject? So these are some of the risks that we are assessing so that we can be able to think about the intervention. So review the injector, the client recommend testing for the frequency and know whether we need a referral. Because you remember we talked about co-occurring medical disorders, we pick them from here. And then now we have got if the person is using once a week or a few days, fewer than 3 days in a row, you can give brief intervention. If they use a week or 3 or more days in a row of injecting, they need further assessment and more intensive treatment. So we'll stop there for now. Is going to be a scoring where we're going to be adding up the scores to be able to arrive at a score 4.
We can't hear.
Sorry, you can't hear?
Yeah, it's moving on recently.
Sorry, okay. Now, what about now? Can you hear me now?
It sounds good right now.
Yeah,
Every
yes.
once in a while you become a bit garbled, but it's
Okay.
It's kind of off and on.
All right, thank you. I'll try to be a little more calm and stable. So we score the assist after that, and there's a guideline of what you do with the score and the meaning of that score and how we now help the client towards linking them to the appropriate intervention. So that is the process we are going to be walking through. So I'm going to stop sharing that now, and I'm going to now finally share the assist tool, which I hope every one of us has got a copy of. Do we have any question before we proceed? Any question before we proceed? You can raise your hand if you have.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, presenter. You stated that for people who are not literate or who cannot, who didn't go to school or something, we can fill glasses and use that to as a guide, you know, with regards to the response card. My question is, can one not translate? Can somebody not read can one not read the items and then get somebody to translate to the client?
Thank you. Thank you. Very good question. You can actually translate, that is true. The only challenge sometimes is that we do not, in some of our mother tongues or native languages, we might not have equivalents of some of these words for translation. But if your language does have an equivalent, yes, you are free to translate. Okay, thank you. So now we go to our assist. My client is George. I remind you that George has volunteered and we are very thankful. I don't know why I can't see George. Maybe George needs to speak so that he pops up on my screen. George, speak, you pop up on my screen, I believe, so that I can be watching your non-verbals. A quick reminder. Yes, George? Good. Yes. Now you see when you speak, you pop up on my screen. Thank you. I remind the participants that Moses explained to us the importance of creating rapport with our client before we begin to interview them. So it is important that the client feels they've been warmly received, you've kept them in a space that is private and confidential so that they feel a sense of confidence in giving you responses to your questions. So George, thank you very much for accepting to take up this interview. I will be asking you the first 3 questions and my colleague Moses will be asking you another 4 questions. By the way, in your center, do not have more than 1 person doing it. Let it be 1 person that runs the client through the entire process. But for purposes of this class, I'm going to ask the first 3 questions and Moses is going to ask the next set of questions. So don't put your client through many different counselors. Remember, they are already struggling to feel safe and secure in your space. So this is for learning purposes. So thank you, George, for agreeing to take part in this brief interview. This is a brief interview that seeks to get information about alcohol, tobacco products, and other substances that you may be involved with. It is important for us to get this information because sometimes substances could have harmful effects on persons, and therefore getting this information will help us to understand how we can help you better. Please feel free to answer honestly to every question because the responses we shall get, we shall treat with confidentiality. We may ask you about some illegal substances, but that information will be kept confidential. So I'm going to be asking you about some questions about your experience of using these substances during your lifetime and also in the past 3 months. Just to remind you, these substances can be used by smoking, they can be used by swallowing, they can be used by snorting, they can be used by inhaling, or even injecting, or in form of pills. So feel free to think about any one of these methods that you may have been involved with. Now, please note that some of these substances I'm going to be asking you about may have been prescribed by a doctor. For purposes of this interview, we will not record them. However, if for any reason you may have used these medications for other reasons besides the prescription reasons, or you took them more frequently, or at higher doses than they had been prescribed, please do let me know. And just like I said earlier, we may ask you about illegal substances, but that information will be treated as strictly confidential. So George, before we begin, do you have any question for me?
No, Counselor. I think I am ready for the session. But just remind
Thank
you
you, George.
Just remind you today is a Saturday, so I want to go for the party.
Thank you. I appreciate that you took time to come here, George, and we shall try to keep it as brief as is possible. Now, I will hold on to the client first, and I will speak to the participants. I want now to remind you to tick as we go along, because we would like to see whether finally we all arrive at the same result and impression for this client. So please don't lose your concentration and forget to score this client as they speak, because like you have heard, they will not be ready to have us do a second interview. We have to get it right from the start. So thank you. So thank you, George. So George, before we begin, I have a couple of cards that I would like to share with you that we shall be using through this process. So I have 5 of these cards, and I'm going to walk you through these cards so that you understand what they are about, so that when the time to use them comes, it can be easier for you. So the first card is this one. It is called response card 1. So this response card, like you can see, has a list of substances. And this list of substances is not exhaustive. In case there are other substances you have been involved with that are not on this list, we can add. So let us go through this list together, George. You can see the first substance is tobacco, and it has many different products. I hope you're familiar with it or you've heard about it. We have got opioids, and the examples are given here. We have got cannabis with examples. We have got amphetamine type stimulants, and these examples are shown here. We have got inhalants, and again, the examples are shown here. We have got the sedatives, and examples are given here. We have hallucinogens, we have cocaine, we have alcohol, and we have others. Now, under others, any other drug that is, or substance that's not in the above, we are going to record it here. So tell me whether you have a question about this list, George.
I think so far, very clear.
Thank you very much. So now that is the first card we are going to be using. The second card we are going to be using is also a card that will help you to answer some of my questions. This card is supposed to help you in terms of knowing the pattern, the timelines, you know, that you have been using the substance. Remember, we can use the substance, you know, more often sometimes than others. And therefore, this card that is called response card number 2 is helping you to try and understand about the duration that you have been using. For example, you can see on this card, if you have never used the substance, then you will tell me never. If you have used the substance and it has just been maybe once or twice, then you will tell me it is once or twice. If you have used it a couple of times in a month, then you're going to tell me monthly. If you've used a couple of times in the week, then you will indicate weekly, like you can see on this card. And if you have used several times in a day, several times in a week, almost daily, then you're going to pick on daily. So that is the card that will help you in terms of trying to help me understand the duration or the pattern that you're having in terms of using the substance. If you have a question, George, please feel free to stop me. I'm going to introduce you to the third response card that will help you. So this card will be helping you in terms of trying to understand your your problems, you know, problems that sometimes may come because of our substances or involvement with substances. So you can see it lists many problems here that you can actually pick on when we get to that question. And then we have got a response card number 4, which shows some of the activities we may fail to do because of involvement with the substance. And they are listed here. So when we come to that question, I will ask you to look at this card. And then there is one more card, which is called response card number 5, which is this one, which is about asking whether anybody has expressed concern about your use, and you will use these 3 responses to answer. If it's never, you will pick the never. If someone has expressed concern about your use of any of the substances in the last 3 months, you will pick the second option. And if someone has expressed interest, but not in the last 3 months, maybe much earlier, then we will pick item number 3. So those are some of the items we are going to be using. And finally, I'm going to give you this calendar. This calendar is to help us reflect about the last 3 months, which I'm going to be asking you the questions about. So let us look at the calendar which we have now. So you can see, George, what is the date today?
The date is 13th.
Yes, it is 13th of June. So if we want to think about the last 3 months, let's go backwards and see from when we shall be thinking about. So the first month backwards goes up to when?
May.
It goes up to 13th of May. Then we go back one more month.
I'm not seeing your slide. It's not showing here.
No, there is no slide.
Okay.
There is no slide. This is a role play now. I'm assuming I'm in a session with George. So it's only George who is seeing. Yes, so George, after April, the next 1 month is?
Is March.
Is March. So you can see from 13th of March to 13th of June is the period we are going to be referring to, okay? So George, do you have any other question before we begin?
I think everything is clear so far.
Thank you very much. And please feel free to stop me anytime you have a question. So now participants, we are going to the tool itself. So those were the cards that we said you had on the side and you are introducing your client to. That's why you are not seeing anything on the screen yet, because those ones are on the side. Any question from the participant? All right.
No.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. So now we are beginning the test itself. You see, we have welcomed the client. We've explained the purpose of the interview. We have told them what it will be about. We have also introduced them to the response cards that we shall be using from time to time with them. Now it's time to go to the actual questions. So George, now we are going to go to question number 1. So George, question number 1, I'm going to be asking you to look at this response card number 1. So this card has a list of substances, like we said, and like you can see. So looking at this list, I will ask you about each of these substances. And when you give me your answer, I'm going to make a mark on this score sheet. So George, in your life, which of the following substances have you ever used for non-medical use? So if it was prescribed by a doctor, it does not apply. So have you ever used a tobacco product, whether it's a cigarette or any other form of tobacco that is around in your environment, or any that is given here? Have you ever used any, George?
Yes, tobacco I've used, yes.
You have used tobacco. Thank you very much. Now, participants, please remember to indicate on your sheet that George has said he has used a substance called tobacco. So I'll be multitasking because I'm also scoring mine. So when I'm a bit slow, you'll understand. Now, what about opioids, George?
Yes, I've ever used.
You have ever used. Thank you. What about cannabis?
Ganja, yes.
You have used ganja. Thank you very much. Have you
Sorry,
ever used?
Sorry, ma, I didn't hear his response to the question on opioid, please.
Okay, so George, kindly speak a little louder so that the participants can hear. So George has used opioids and he has also used cannabis and he has used tobacco. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Okay, so George, have you ever used an amphetamine type of stimulant such as diet pills, ecstasy, or cat?
No, never.
No, you haven't. Thank you. Have you ever used any inhalant such as glue, petrol, or paint thinner, or any other?
No.
No. Thank you. Have you ever used a sedative or sleeping pill such as Valium, Nimetazepam, or any one of these pills to help you with sleep?
Once in a while, yes.
Once in a while. Thank you. Yes, is anybody asking something? Okay, thank you. So we are now on hallucinogens. George, have you ever used any hallucinogen or a substance that alters your perception, such as the ones listed here or any other?
No, hallucinogens, no.
The answer is no. Okay. George, have you ever used cocaine in whatever form?
No.
No, so cocaine is no. And have you ever used any alcoholic beverages?
That very yes.
Yes, you have. Thank you. Is there any other substance that is not on this list that you may have used?
Not any that comes to mind right now.
All right. Thank you, George. And thank you for your very important information. We are now going to proceed to question number 2. But just before we do, I just want to confirm that you have used tobacco, you have used some opioids, you have used ganja, you have used some sleeping pills sometimes, and you have used alcohol. Am I correct?
You're correct, Councillor. You're correct.
Thank you very much. So we are now going to proceed to question number 2. Now, participants, does anybody have a question up to there?
None yet.
No.
Okay. All right, thank you. So now we proceed to question number 2. So remember, in question number 2 now, we are going to be asking about the substances that we have been told by George, because he has told us the ones he has used. So he's already told us he's used tobacco, he has used opioids, he has used cannabis, he has used sedatives, and he has used alcoholic beverages. So we're going to be asking about 5 substances. So the first one is tobacco. So George, thank you for giving me information that you have used tobacco. Now, I would like to ask you another question. In the past 3 months, how often have you used tobacco? Is it never? Remember your response card number 2, this one? Yes, use this one to guide you. So how often have you used tobacco?
No, I smoke daily. I smoke daily.
You smoke daily.
Yes.
Very good. So participants, you can see that the score for tobacco is daily. So that George is not hearing. Just know that one is not for George. That one is just for participants. Thank you, George. Now, George, you indicated that you have used opioids. How frequently have you used this substance?
Councillor, that is very occasional because it's very expensive here. So maybe just once per month at the end of month, maybe once per month when you can afford it.
So once per month. So that is more like once or twice. Yeah. Okay, very good. So I hope participants, you have picked that opioids have been used once or twice.
Yes.
Very good. George, thank you for your continued honesty with me. Now I want to ask you about cannabis. How often have you used cannabis?
Cannabis I do every weekend. Every Saturday.
Every weekend.
Like now when I'm through with you, when I'm through with you and I go for the party, I'm sure I'll get a joint somewhere.
So like once a week. So can I assume you use it weekly?
I use weekly, yes.
Okay, thank you, George. Now, George, you also indicated to me that you use sleeping pills sometimes. Now, yes, how frequently is that you use sleeping pills?
Well, that's again, it's only about once per month when you don't have too much money and you need to fill up your alcohol. So just once in a while when you're broke.
Okay, so we can actually say you use it like monthly?
Monthly is fair.
Okay, thank you. So George, you also indicated that you use cocaine. Would you like to tell me how frequently you use cocaine?
No, Councillor, I indicated that I don't use cocaine.
Doesn't use cocaine.
Oh, you do not use cocaine. I'm sorry about that. Thank you very much for correcting me, George. I appreciate. So you indicated that you use alcoholic beverages. So how frequently do you use alcoholic beverages?
Councillor, I think I use maybe about 4 to 5 times per week.
4 to 5 times a week. So that sounds like it's almost daily, right?
Almost daily, Councillor, yes.
Thank you very much, George. I appreciate your honesty and your high level of attention. Thank you very much. So now we are going to proceed to the next question, George. Is there anything else you would like to tell me about that set of questions?
No, I have no question on the questions.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, we did not score F.
F was sedatives. Okay, so I will tell you what he said. He said he uses monthly for the sedatives. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, please let me know whether anyone else has missed any other.
Yes, I missed opioids.
If you raise your hand, I'll be able to know who's speaking.
Okay.
Yes, Alero.
Please, I missed opioids.
Yes, opioids, he said he uses once or twice.
Once or twice, thank you.
Yes, anybody else that missed?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Please raise your hand. Who's speaking?
It's Ujuru. I'm looking for where to raise my hand. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Yes. Yes, Ujunu.
Please, the under the sedatives, when he said at least once a month, you know,
Sorry, we are losing you.
Finally asked him, okay, so I'll agree this will be monthly. Hello?
Sorry?
I noticed
Yes.
that when he answered, I noticed that when he answered and he said once a month for the sedative.
Yes.
Then you now told him, oh, can I agree that this will be monthly? Because the first option says once or twice a month, and then the next option, which is monthly, actually says like up to 3 times a month. So, of course, if it's just once a month, like he said, it will be 2. But when you now asked him and you wanted to agree with him, even though he said once a month, you said, well, I assume that this is monthly. We now scored him at monthly. I don't know whether you get what I'm saying.
So you're saying that about the sedative?
That when he answered he takes once a month. He said once a month. And we know
once
that the option,
a month.
Yes. And then you now asked to be sure, you said, okay, can I assume that this is monthly? So for instance, once a month will go into once or twice a month, which is 2. But if we're assuming that it's monthly, it will go into 3. So that's where, is it what he said that will tick, or how you finally reflected back and he agreed with you? So that's my confusion here.
Okay, so I think what we do, can we do, if we have the access to the response card, the response card does guide us on how we should answer it. So sometimes when the client asks and the answer is not straightforward, you can probe more in line with the response card so that then you're more clearer. So are you feeling that we should have scored a 2 for the sedatives rather than a 3?
From his response, that was very, as in from his own response, without really, shaking whatever he said once a month, and he was very clear. Then we were now trying to get, feedback. While we were now probing, we said, can I assume that you mean monthly? And then he said, yes. And these 2 responses are quite different in terms of scoring, 2 and 3. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. So the key thing is it once or twice in the last 3 months, or is it once or twice in a month? I think, was it Fatima was I was talking to?
I asking George now.
Yes, so once or twice, Fatima.
Yes.
Is within the duration of the 3 months, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, so once or twice within a duration of 3 months.
Yes.
As opposed to
once or twice is within 3 months. But if you use it monthly, that means you use it once every month in the past 3 months.
Yes.
That means he has used it 3 times in the month.
Okay, that means he has used 3 times. So it's
3 times in the month,
Yes.
Okay.
So if he has used 3 times in a month, you can see it
goes
outside the second, yeah. So that's why we scored it under number 3. Do we understand that?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so let's keep in mind that the second one is about the period within 3 months. So if he says once or twice, then it means within the 3 months. So if he says he uses every month, a day every month, that will be 3 times, which pushes it to the 3rd level, away from the second level. What will guide us a lot is actually the response card. Now, our client has disappeared. So George, can you speak to me so that I see you?
I'm right here. I'm right
You're
here.
right here for some reason. Okay, I think you speak so that you come back. Yes, thank you. Now you're back. Thank you. So now we're going to go to the next question, George, which is question number 3. And I think just before we go, I see Francisca's hand is raised. So just, George, just hold on. Just assume that you are not hearing this. So Francisca?
Yes, my question actually is not on it's still about the issue of the response, because when I heard George answer about opioids, he said opioids are very expensive. Opioids are very expensive. He just uses them like once at the end of the month. Yeah, that's what I heard George say. And then you told us, I mean, you finalized it as once or twice. So actually at this point, there's a confusion on 2 and 3 for this one.
So let me go back to the client so that we clarify and we are sure we got it right. So George, how often do you use opioids?
I think as per my earlier response, opioids are expensive, so maybe just once per month.
Once per
That's
month.
3 times.
Okay.
At the end of the month.
So if he uses once per month, then yes, we can say it is
So
score
it is
number 3. Thank you for
3.
that, Francisca. All right, thank you. Any other? So the second score once or twice is within the 3-month period. So
Yeah.
if they're using, yes, if they're using more frequently, then we score it under monthly. Okay, thank you, George. Now we are going to go to question number 3. And here I'm going to be asking you, not necessarily about using, but about the urge to use. I'm sure there are some times that you get an urge to use and maybe you don't use because you may not have the money to buy, or maybe the availability of the substance. So this question, I'm going to be asking you about the urge to use, or having a strong desire to use, what sometimes you can call a craving. So George, you did say that you use tobacco. Do you ever, or how often, have you had a strong desire or urge to use tobacco?
For tobacco, it's a daily urge. It's a daily craving.
So you have a daily urge to use tobacco. Thank you very much. How about opioids?
No, it's not a craving. It's not an urge. Yeah.
So how often do you have a strong desire to use, or do you ever have any?
It's not an urge. It's just because in the course of partying, we take it. It's not an urge.
So would I be right to say that you've never had a strong desire or an urge to use opioids?
Yes, it's not an urge.
Okay, thank you. Now, you also indicated you have used cannabis. Have you ever had a strong urge or desire to use it?
Yes, once in a while it comes. Once in a while.
So how often does that urge come?
Maybe once or twice weekly.
Once or twice in a week?
Yes.
So we would be right to say it's more like weekly.
Weekly. No,
Okay.
you'd say once or twice. Once or twice, I think.
Once or twice in a week. Okay. So participants, are we in agreement it's weekly?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
very
Yes.
good. So that is for cannabis.
Yes.
All right. Next we go to the next drug that George uses, which is sedatives. So George, you indicated that you use some sleeping pills once in a while to get sleep, particularly when you do not have, the money. So do you ever get an urge or a strong desire to use a sleeping pill or sleeping pills?
No, actually the urge is for alcohol. I only use this one as an alternative in the absence of alcohol. So this is not I say it's not an urge. Yeah.
So if I say never, will that be okay?
I think that will fit me.
All right, thank you. You also indicated that you use alcoholic beverages. Do you ever get strong urges to use alcohol or alcoholic beverages?
Yes, I do.
How frequently does that happen?
It's a daily urge.
So every day you feel an urge to use alcohol?
Yes, that I do.
Okay, thank you very much. Participants, are we together?
Yes.
Is there any question or clarification we want to make before I discharge the client for this section?
Yes, Beatrice. Can I go ahead?
Yes, and you say your name so that I can know whom I'm speaking to.
Okay, Beatrice, it's Samuel from Nigeria.
Okay, Samuel.
When the client was speaking, when he was on opiate, he said sometimes he goes for for parties, and he just has the urge. And just for the sake of clarity, so that we don't get it mixed up, I think that it may not go for never. We can now just give him, just an opinion, okay? Maybe we can just give him once in a month, because he uses it and it didn't indicate that he doesn't have the urge. Maybe why I'm just raising this observation is because I was trying to code it. I know we agreed on a 0, but maybe these are the kind of points that we need to clarify from the clients. My humble opinion, please.
Thank you, Samuel. So if I am not, I didn't get it wrong, I think the client himself stated that for opioids, he does not get the urge. He just takes it when it is available in a party. Did I get that right, participants?
Yes, yes.
And not at all, Beatrice. We actually did very well. But I'm just trying to stress the fact that, especially for the sake of when we're dealing with actual clients, maybe there may be need to really buttress the point and make it very clear. My own take, just from my experience, please.
Yes, that's important. That's a very important point. And we can actually ask this client again that, you know, so even if you haven't been to a party or you have not been to a place where there is that substance, you never ever get a desire to use it. But the client was quite emphatic that for that one, they never get any cravings or urge. They only take when they go to a party and it's available. I think that's what he articulated. Okay. Yeah, I think but your point is very important. We need to ensure that for each of these substances, we ensure that the client reflects about it. But this one was quite clear. He said that for opioids, he just takes because it's available in the parties. He doesn't get a desire for it or even a craving for it. But we are going to clarify just now. So George, yes. I just want to clarify what you told me about the use of opioids. Mm-hmm. You indicated when I asked you whether you ever get a strong urge or strong desire to use, you indicated that not necessarily. Is that the case for all the times?
I think for opioids, it's all the time. It's not an urge per se. It's really bonding with buddies and just being part of the party. You don't want to be, you just want to go with the flow. So it's just going with the flow.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George. So I hope, Samuel, now we have been able to clarify with the client, and that's very important information you're sharing with us, that we need to ensure that the client has got our question and clarifies and we got it right so that we don't miss that. So thank you very much for that. Now I have someone.
Excuse me, sorry, can we ask him again? I mean, go back to sedatives, because he was saying that he has urge to take alcohol, but for sedatives he does not, except when alcohol is there. But I want to find out, when alcohol is not there within 1 month, does he ever have the urge?
Thank you for your question, and that is exactly the way we should do it when we have a live client. So for now, because we do not have much time and we must complete this tool, you're going to allow us to keep it that way. But in your actual assessment or screening of your client, please do that. Clarify, ask again, probe, just like you're saying. So thank you very much for that. I'm now going to hand it over to Moses to take George through question number 4 up to 8. So Moses, please take it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, question 4. Okay. Thank you, George, for your time so far, and thank you for cooperating with us. We'll soon finish. I'm taking you on question 4 now. Please, during the past 3 months, how often has your use of tobacco, opioids, cannabis, sedatives, and alcoholic beverages led to health, social, legal, or financial problems? You can check your response card number 3 and then help me to answer those questions. So, have you had any problems with tobacco in the last 3 months?
Yes, I have a chest problem, and I think the doctor says it is related to my smoking.
Health, yes. Social, legal, or financial problems?
Health problems related to tobacco health problems.
Yeah, okay. How often?
I think it's been recurrent for the last 1 month. It's been recurrent. It's been continuous.
Been continuous.
Yes.
And what does that mean? Is it a monthly, weekly, or would you say it's a daily thing?
I think I'd put that weekly because it's not every single day, probably about 3 to 4 times per week. But yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
So you think it occurs every week?
Yes, about 3 to 4 days per week.
Hello?
Hello, you're
About 4 times a week?
3 to 4 times per week, yes.
So you think it's weekly?
Yes, I think it would be weekly.
Okay. All right. What about a problem with opioids? Led to health, social, legal, or financial problem in the last 3 months?
No, I've not had a big issue with opioids because my consumption is really minimal. Yes.
Sorry, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, sir, and I want to make clarification.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't resolve his score for tobacco.
No, it's weekly, he said.
No, weekly.
Hello, sir. Yeah, he was saying 3 to 4 times.
Yeah, for tobacco, he answered, he responded saying weekly.
And he affirmed.
Well, I thought he said 3 to 4 times a week. We should have been daily or almost daily.
I will agree with him. I mean, the last speaker, I think it should be almost daily. Almost daily. Because if you check it, it's almost more than half of the week. If you're looking at 3 to 4 days in a week.
So 5 to 7 times is weekly. 5 to 7 times is daily.
It's weekly. It's on the card. 1 to 4 times per week is weekly.
Oh, okay. I don't have the card.
Then we clarified it with the client. Does he think it's weekly? He says weekly. It's not up to 5 times.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
So it's not daily.
Yes, I agree with you. You clarified and the client affirmed weekly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So let's move
maybe
go
Moses,
back to the response card. You see,
Moses,
yes.
just to clarify, maybe
Yes, please.
for us to be accurate, we need to have with us the response card, because the response card guides us to say if it's 1 to 4 times per week, we code weekly. If it's 5 to 7 times per week, we code daily. If it is 1 to 3
That is
times,
why I said
we code monthly. So that can guide us. Thank you.
that is why I clarify. I say in the response card, it is up to 5. It's 5 times a month. Then you say daily. But if it's not up to that, if it's 3 to 4, it's weekly. And we clarify with the client, and it says it's weekly. So you look at the response card and the cutoff. So when you ask the questions, check what the response card says before you score. So thank you for that clarification. So what about opioids? Sorry for the interruption, George. And thank you for your patience. So do you have any health challenges or social, legal, or financial problems in the past 3 months with regard to your use of opioids?
No, in regard to opiates, I've not had any issues. Not on opiates. No, not at all. Not at all.
So never?
No, never. Yes, never.
Okay. What about problem with cannabis with regard to your health, social, legal, or financial problems in the past 3 months?
Yes, I've occasionally the police have had to search me, and I've had a bit of issues with the police. Yes, occasionally.
Okay.
Yeah, occasionally.
Occasionally. So
yes.
What would that be? Is it something like once or twice in the past 3 months?
Once or twice in the past, yes.
And not monthly? It's not something that occurs every month?
No,
like 3
no.
times in the past? Okay.
No.
So once or twice in the past 3 months. Okay.
Yes. Awesome.
What about problem with sedatives or sleeping pills?
No problem that I can think of.
Not at all?
No, not at all that I can think of, yes.
Okay. What about with alcoholic beverages? You got your health, social, legal, and financial problems.
Yes, I'm always running into debt because of alcohol consumption. It's always in debt.
Always in debt. What does that mean? Is it something that occurs like 3 or 4 times a week or almost daily?
Well, you don't grow broke every day, so you grow broke certain parts of the month when you don't have the money. So I'd probably put it at maybe weekly, not daily, at only weekly, not daily.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we'll move to question 5. Thank you, George, for your patience. Yes, Beatrice. Okay. Okay, we are in question 5 now. During the past 3 months, George, how often have you failed to do what was normally expected of you because of your use of tobacco, opioids, cannabis, sedatives, and alcoholic beverages? So in the past 3 months, how often have you failed to do what was normally expected of you because of your use of tobacco? If you can look at the response card there and then see the options and check whether you've had any problem with regard to tobacco.
Tobacco, no. I've done my duties, even with the cough and with the chest problems. At least I'm able to do all my duties to the very end. So never.
So not at all?
Not at all.
Okay. Thank you, George. What about with opioids in the past 3 months, where you think you failed to do what was normally expected of you because of your use of opioids in the past 3 months? Have you?
No, because consumption is so minimal. No problem so far.
You have not overdosed yourself and failed to go to work or do any of that in the past 3 months?
No, the consumption is very casual. Very casual, very minimal, right, and in safe settings.
Oh, thank you, George. Thank you very much. So what about with regard to cannabis use?
When I got arrested by the police, when you rush into, you brush with the police, then you have a bit of time to spend with them as you sort out the legal issues. So once in a while I've missed to report to work when I've brushed with the police. That I'd put at once or twice.
Okay, once or twice, mean in 3 months, or is it something that every month you have issues with them, or every week?
Not in 3 months, maybe just once or twice in 3 months.
Once in 3 months?
Once or twice in 3 months, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. What about with regard to the use of sedatives or sleeping pills? Have you failed to do what's expected of you because of your use of sedatives or sleeping pills in the past 3 months?
Yes, when I once mixed it up with alcohol, I think I overslept. So I'm not sure that I want to put it with alcohol, but when I once mixed it with alcohol and I did sleep too much, I didn't report to duty. So I've had an issue once.
Only once in the past 3 months?
Only once in the past 3 months.
Only once, okay. And you are sure it was because of your use of the sleeping pills?
Yes, because if I use just sleeping pills by themselves, the sleep is not too much. Alcohol by itself, sleep is not too much. But when I mixed it up, I think it got all over me. I just couldn't be able to get from my bed. And it was only once.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. What about with regard to alcoholic beverages? Have you had any issues where you failed to do what was expected of you in the past 3 months because of your use of alcoholic beverages? Because you use almost daily.
Yes, if I don't get my alcohol in good time, then I have headaches. I feel like I want to nauseate. I'm slow. I'm a bit slow. So that happens. That happens a bit often with alcohol.
So would you say almost daily then?
Well, I'm able to afford. No, not daily, because once in a while you get your alcohol in good time. Maybe almost, I'll put it probably at weekly, because it's
weekly,
really
that means about 3 to 4 times.
Yes, 3 to 4 times.
So you're saying about 3 to 4 times in a week?
Yes, 3 to 4 times in a week. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, George. We're moving on. So, ask you another question. Has a friend or relative or anyone else ever expressed concern about your use of tobacco, opioids, cannabis, sedatives, or alcoholic beverages in the past 3 months? Has a friend or relative or anyone else ever expressed concern about the use of tobacco in the past 3 months?
My family complains that the smoke, the smell. Yes, there are always complaints from my wife, complaints from my children. That happens all the time.
So that means at least almost daily then?
Yes, almost daily there are complaints.
Okay. What about a complaint with regard to opioids?
No, because they don't even know that I take opioids. I take in parties. So they have no idea. They have not complained.
So I didn't get that clearly.
My family doesn't even know that I take opioids, so they have not complained.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
It's a
So
very
never.
private, never.
Okay, never. Thank you. Thank you. What about with regard to cannabis? Has anyone or a friend or relative expressed concern about your use of cannabis in the past 3 months?
Even for that one, since it's a private undertaking, they hardly know that I take, so they have not complained.
So nobody has complained about that?
No relative or friend has complained.
Okay. What about with regard to the use of sedatives?
When I slept too much, there was a complaint. That was once. It happened only once. When I did sleep too much, there was a complaint once.
That's in the past 3 months or not in the past 3 months? In the past 3 months?
Yes, in the past 3 months once, yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, what about concern about your use of alcoholic beverages in the past 3 months?
That happens. So, yes. Wife complains about my taking all the time. She's always nagging, I'm taking, I'm not there.
Okay.
Daily.
Thank you, John. Okay, we'll move on.
Sir, I didn't get the score for sedative.
For sedative?
Yes, sir.
The same, I didn't get one for alcoholic beverages. I didn't hear his answer.
For alcoholic beverages?
Yes.
No, he says for alcoholic beverages, it's almost the complaint.
Okay.
In the past 3 months. Yes. Something that's almost deleting.
But for sedatives?
And for sedatives, yes, they have complained in the past 3 months.
Is it daily?
Remember, it's not a daily thing. Has ever listen to the question. Have you ever? No. Sorry, let's go back to question 6. Sorry, listen to the question. Has a friend or relative or anyone else ever expressed concern about your use of so-and-so? No, never. Yes, in the past 3 months. It's not the frequency, but in the past 3 months. And then yes, but not in the past 3 months. Can you see the scoring is different from the previous one? You understand?
Yeah, but what I'm asking, have they complained in the past 3 months or not in the past 3 months?
In the past 3 months, yes, they've complained.
Okay.
Oh, okay, George, let's ask you again the question. Sorry, George, sorry to take you back. Has a friend or relative or anyone else ever expressed concern about your use of sedatives in the past 3 months?
Yes, I affirmed yes.
Okay. So have you had? Fatima?
Yes, I've had.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on. We're almost done. George, thank you for cooperating with us. And thank you again for your patience. I'm asking another question again. Have you ever tried and failed to control, cut down, or stop using tobacco, opioids, cannabis, sedatives, or sleeping pills, and alcoholic beverages in the past 3 months? Have you ever tried, failed to control, or cut down, or reduce, the intake, or stop using? Maybe you've tried to control, but you couldn't. You tried to reduce, cut down, you couldn't. And then you tried to stop using, but you didn't succeed. Have you ever in the past 3 months for tobacco?
Yes, for tobacco, I've tried to cut down and not succeeded.
Okay. In the past 3 months?
In the past 3 months, yes.
What about for opioids? Have you tried to control, cut down, or stop using opioids in the past 3 months and didn't succeed?
No, never.
Okay. What about your use of cannabis? Have you tried?
Sorry, we didn't hear the response to opioid use.
No, he said never, never. He said never. That of opioid use has been consistent, never.
Thank you.
Yeah. So sorry, George. Sorry for the interruption. So have you ever tried and failed to control, cut down, or stop using cannabis in the past 3 months?
Yes, I tried once in the last 3 months. I tried to cut down. I did.
But did you succeed?
No. You always want to be the boys out there, so you eventually get back to it.
Okay. What about the use of sedatives in the past 3 months? Have you ever tried to control, cut down, or stop using in the past 3 months, but failed?
No, I've never tried to.
Not at all?
No, never tried to.
Okay, thank you. What about your use of alcoholic beverages? Have you ever tried, but failed to control, cut down, or stop using in alcoholic beverages in the past 3 months?
Yes, I try once in a while to slow down, but I still end up drinking so much more. I try, but I have not succeeded. That I do.
All right. Thank you very much.
I didn't get his response for tobacco.
To tobacco?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to question 7 again. I'm sorry. Okay. To tobacco, he said yes. He had tried and failed to control it in the past 3 months for tobacco. So are you okay?
Yes, yes, I'm right.
Okay, thank you. So for question 8, this is the last question, George. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Have you ever used any drug by injection for non-medical use only? Not the one that the doctors prescribe for you.
We injected heroin only once in a party. But that was only once. It was a one-off thing. We prefer smoking. It's more decent in the parties.
Was it in the past 3 months? Or
yes,
or not in the past 3 months?
It's in the past 3 months.
In the past 3 months?
Yes.
Only once?
Only once, yes.
Okay. Okay. So, so you use it only once weekly or less? Okay, in the past 3 months, only once?
Only once.
Okay, thank you. So, well, Beatrice, I think that is all. Hello,
Thank you
Beatrice.
very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Moses. So, George, now I want to thank you. You have been a very cooperative. Thank you for the information and the patience. Kindly, may I have the cards back and the calendar?
There you go.
Yes.
Yes, I hope they were useful. Thank you very much. So, participants, that is the ASI. We have just administered it. Now we go to scoring the ASI. I mean the assist, sorry,
assist.
not ASI, the assist. So now we go to scoring. I hope you have everything ready with you. Put together all your pages so that we can do a bit of mathematics now. I hope people loved their mathematics classes in school so that they will have fun doing this. So this is how we score. So to calculate, as we need to calculate a score for every substance. So we're going to calculate a score for tobacco. We're going to calculate a score for opioids. We're going to calculate a score for cannabis. We're going to calculate a score for the sleeping pills. And we are going to calculate a score for alcoholic beverages. So let's begin. And then the other important information, we don't score question number 1. Why? Because question number 1 was the introductory question that just gave us an idea of the substances we shall be asking about. So we don't score question 1. We begin from question number 2. We also don't score question number 8, the one that was asking about injecting substances. So we are going to score question 2, question 3, question 4, 5, 6, and 7. So can you now go to your scores that you gave George and do some addition? You add the score you gave him for question 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then you tell us what score George has. So you have 2 minutes to do that. So we are now doing some mathematics. Yes, let's see who's great at doing algebra. Yes. I don't know whether you want me to remind you what the scores were.
No, you don't need to remind them. They are supposed to score it and then total we see whether they got it right or not.
So that we see whether they were paying attention to the client.
Yeah. Yes, whether they were able to score it well, because we need to know whether they're able to score it well.
Very good.
So if there's variation, they will ask them where they got it wrong. Then we can correct it.
Very good. So Moses, please do the additions for me because I'm not able to multitask, so you can do the scores.
Okay. For Johnny's score on tobacco.
No. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. You'll be leaking. So it's just that you will also give us your score to see whether the participants got it right. So who has got a score for George for tobacco? The first person, raise your hand.
I've raised my hand, Fatima.
Fatima, please give us your score for George.
For George, I got 24 for tobacco. Yes.
So for George, for tobacco, you got 24. Any other person? Yes, I can see another hand.
I got 28.
Please give your name.
Okay, my name is Eigato.
Eigato has 28. Who else?
Yeah, hello, Titi.
So Jessica.
Uju has 28.
Titi. Hello.
Kindly mute yourselves, and Jessica will be picking on you to speak.
Yes, please. I will call on people as they raise their hands. That would be
okay.
a bit
So
more.
I see 3 participants have raised their hand.
Yes, I'm
Please
controlling
for us
it.
one.
Okay, right now I saw Fatima's hand first.
So Fatima gave 24. Okay. Ehigato gave 28. So let's hear from the rest of the councillors. So Ujumwa has raised their hand.
Yes, I got 28 for tobacco.
Okay. Another participant.
And I
Tell us what you got for tobacco.
Hello, 28, Titi, 28.
Titi, 28. Thank you. Any other score different from 24 and 28?
Alero, 28.
So, Alero, 28. Okay, let's hear what Moses got. Moses?
28.
Moses got 28. So let's assume that 28 is the score. So Fatima, check again your score total, because everybody else has 28, I hope.
Okay.
Let us now go to opioids. Please add up.
Sorry, Bitches. Sorry, Bitches.
Yes.
Can we clarify for Fatima?
Sorry?
Can we clarify for Fatima? Let her call the scores for tobacco, each for question 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 each. Let's hear the score so that we know where she got it wrong.
Okay. For question 1, I got 6. For question 1, I got 6.
No, question 2.
Sorry, for question 2, I got 6.
Yes.
For question 3, I got 6.
Yes.
Okay.
Then for question 4, I got 4.
Yes.
Okay.
Then for question 5, I got 0.
Yes.
Okay.
Then for question 6, I got 6.
Okay.
For question 7, I got 6.
Okay.
That is 28.
Oh.
Maybe you do the calculations again.
It's 28.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
28.
Thank you very much. Now we're in agreement. Let's now go to opioids. Let's get the total score for George for opioids. You have 2 minutes to do that. Jessica, yes, I can see Alero. Alero, give us your score.
I got 3 for opioids. 3 for opioids.
3 for opioids. Ujunwa?
I got 3 as well.
You got 3 as well. Anybody else with a different answer?
3 as well. Take 3.
Yeah, you must wait for me. You must wait for me to call out your name. So you mute yourself until I call out your name. So Jessica, please tell me who else has a raised hand.
Yes, I see Paul.
Yes, Paul, what's your score?
I got 3.
3. Anybody with a different answer from 3? Moses?
Yeah.
You have 3?
I got 2.
You got 2. So now we have a problem. So we are going to go back to the answers for opioids. So what was question number 2 for opioids? What was the score? Was it a 3?
It was a 3.
It was a 3?
Yes.
Yes, question 2, there was a 3 for
2.
opioids.
No, question number 2 was 2.
Question 3, there was 0.
2.
Yes.
Question 4, there was 0.
0,
Question
yeah.
5, there was 0.
0.
Question 6, there was 0.
Yeah.
Question 7, there was 0.
Yes.
So the total is 3. So we agree the total is 3, right?
Yeah, it's 3.
Very well. Now we go
Yes,
to cannabis.
it's 3.
Let's go to cannabis. Let's hear the answers for cannabis. Jessica, I see 3 participants.
Yes, I see Alero's hand.
Alero, please tell us your answer.
18 for cannabis.
You got 18 for cannabis. Anybody else?
I also see Ujunwa. Yes.
You see who?
Ujunwa.
Ujunwa, please give your answer. 18. Thank you. Anybody else with a different score? Okay, Moses, what's your score?
18.
18. So anybody else with a different score? So we're in agreement. We give 18 for cannabis. The next one is sedatives, the sleeping pills. So what's the score for George for sleeping pills? Anybody raise your hand if you have done the calculations? Jessica, please tell me whose hands are raised.
Yes, I saw Fatima just raised her hand.
Yes, Fatima, give us a score for sleeping pills.
I got 5.
You got 5. Thank you. Anybody else?
I also see Igator's hand.
Who?
Yeah, I got 11. Ehigiato.
You got 11. That's
11 for sedative. Yeah.
11 for sedatives. Another person, Ehigiato.
Yeah, I got 11.
You got 11. Another person.
Yeah.
With a different answer, Ujunwa.
Ujunwa got 11. 11.
You got 11. Moses, what did you get?
11.
11. So let's go through the questions very quickly for sedatives. So question number 2, sedatives, we scored 3.
Yeah.
For question number 3, we scored 0. Question number 4, we scored 0. Question number 5, we scored 2.
Yeah.
Question number 6, we scored 6.
Yeah.
Question number 7, we scored 0. The total is?
11.
11. So very well. And finally, kindly give us about 5 minutes extra. So alcohol, kindly give your score for alcohol. Alcohol, anybody? Yes, Ehigato.
Alcohol is 32.
32, Paul,
Yeah.
Odinka.
16.
30.
Paul, 30, another person.
32.
Sorry?
32. 32.
32, okay. Moses, what do you have?
Fatima got 32.
Fatima got 32. Moses, have you got a score yet?
28.
28. So now we need to go back to the scores. So item number 2, question 2 for alcohol, we scored 6. Is that so?
Yes.
Question 3, we scored 6 again.
Yeah.
Question 4, we scored 4. Question 5, we scored 4 again.
4, yeah.
Question 6, we scored 6.
Yes.
And question 7, we scored 6 again.
Oh, 19. No, people.
So the total is?
19.
Yes, the total?
Is 32.
32.
Moses?
Question 7 was what?
Question 7
It's
was
32.
Was 6 as well.
Okay, yeah, that is true. Sorry.
So do we agree it is 32?
Yes, we
Yeah,
agree.
32.
Very good.
32.
So now,
32,
thank you
yeah.
very much. So George, now
It's
in the
32.
next, you can now, I'm going back to the table. So in this table, we shall enter the score for George. So for tobacco, now can you mute yourselves kindly if you're unmuted? Thank you. So now we're using this table now to type in the scores for George. So for tobacco, we have got 28. Now for opioids, we have got 3. For cannabis, we have, not cannabis, yes, cannabis, we have 18. For sleeping pills, sedatives, we have got 11. And for alcohol, we have got 32. So please fill in that on your table if you have got one with you. And now we are going to try and interpret the scores for George. So look, I'm going to skip this and go down a little to the next page where we have the report card. We want to give George a report card now. And you can see the scores have been given the ranges. If he has a score for tobacco, actually for all the substances except alcohol, if he has a score between 0 and 3, that is, the risk is low. Between 4 and 26, the risk is moderate. Above 27, the risk is high. For all these substances except alcohol. I want you to see alcohol. Alcohol, like Moses told us in the last class, allows you up to 10. So between 0 and 10, we shall consider that low risk. I guess because you know alcohol is a recreational substance commonly used even for social purposes, and that's why it's been given a higher threshold. Then you have got 11 to 26 will be moderate, and above 27 will be high. So let's now go to this table and look at our scores for George. So the first item is tobacco. Our score is 28. So what is the level of risk for George? Yes, raise your hand, type in.
High. The risk
it is
high.
high. So for tobacco, he's got high risk. Thank you. Now for cannabis, he's at 18. What is the risk?
It's high
I
too.
skipped opioids. I skipped opioids. For opioids, he's got a 3.
Opioid is low.
It's moderate.
So low
it's
for opioids.
moderate. 18
is moderate. Very good. Now we go to sedatives. He has 11. So type in the chat. What are you give George in terms of risk? It's going to be what? For sedatives.
It's moderate.
It's moderate. Very good. What about for alcohol? Look at alcohol. Alcohol, you're told anything above 27 is high. So for alcohol, he has 32. So we give him high.
Alcohol is high.
So that's his report card. Now we want to go to the intervention table, which is the one just above. So we are saying that if he scores between 0 to 3, we don't need any intervention because the risk is low. If the risk is moderate, we give him what is called a brief intervention. And Moses is going to be taking us through that in the next class about the brief intervention. If a score is above 27, we will be taking him for more intensive treatment, further assessment, and more planning for treatment. So now for tobacco, what do we give George? Remember, he's at 28. What kind of intervention does he need? Raise your hand.
My hand is raised.
Yes, Fatima?
For tobacco, he needs more intensive treatment.
Very good. For tobacco, he needs more intensive treatment because he has a score of 28. Thank you.
Yes.
Now, who is going to tell us what George needs for opioids?
Alero's hand is raised.
Yes, Alero. Alero for opioids. Any other participants?
No intervention is needed.
Yeah.
No intervention for opioids. Very good. What about for cannabis? Who's going to tell us? Raise your hand. No, someone else. Jessica?
Iagator's hand is raised.
Yes,
Yeah, he needs brief intervention.
He needs brief intervention. Very good. What about for sedatives? Anybody else whose hand is raised?
Chitsanzo's hand.
Sanzu?
Yeah, I will need a brief intervention.
Brief intervention for sedatives. Very good. And finally for alcohol, any other participant?
I see Grace's hand.
Grace, for alcohol, he has a 32.
More intervention.
You will need more intensive intervention. Thank you very much. So our client, George, needs more intensive intervention for 2 substances, for tobacco as well as for alcohol. He will need brief intervention for cannabis and for sedatives, and he will not necessarily need intervention for opioids. So that is how we score the assist. That's how we develop the scorecard, the report card for the client, and that's how we share the feedback. We're going to stop there for now so that we can continue next time when Moses will now be taking us through what we call brief intervention. There is a little slide that is in your PowerPoint which explains some of the common mistakes that we make when we are scoring the assist. Please read it so that you can understand more. Please practice more. I know it's been a challenge working on this online. We were trying it and we are glad that it's been able to work. And thank you, our client, George, for being an excellent client and very cooperative and not resistant. We appreciate. So thank you very much. Give a clap to George, everybody. And thank you to our great counselors for scoring our client very well. So George, I hope the experience wasn't very challenging. I will be debriefing you offline after this class. So thank you very much. So I hand it over to Jessica, but just before I do, just to remind you, please ensure that you download the ASI for the next class. If you have any challenges, send us emails. We shall help you to do that. And thank you for giving us extra minutes for this class. Thank you. So Jessica?
All right, so I have seen a few emails with some of you still having issues downloading the participant manual and the ASI and the other materials. So I just first want you to make sure that after you complete the pretest, please make sure that you check the little circle with the check mark inside of it in the upper right corner. And if you still have trouble downloading the materials, then please email Kim, myself, Moses, Beatrice, so that we can help you. And other than that, we are not meeting tomorrow, but we will be meeting again on Monday. So we will see you then. And then if Beatrice or Moses has anything to add.
Yes, just to add that sometimes you can score it wrongly. You have to actually check again before you calculate the scores. You have to go back and look at all the questions again and make sure that you score them correctly before you give the total score, because sometimes you can be doing that and make a mistake just like we did today. So thank you very much for your active participation. That's all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.